Hi, everyone. As you're coming in here and Tom's letting you in, I'm Larry from the Room River Art Center, and we've got Mary Leah who's going to be teaching the classes. Come on over here. She's in it. Yep. And just wanted to say hi to all the people that have joined us today. We have Tom, who is doing our technical work behind the scenes, Tom Pace. So it takes a little village to run this. We're the Room River Art Center. A lot of you guys have taken classes here or virtually. And we just are glad that you're able to take advantage of some of the great artists here and sharing their work. So we have some new classes that are going to be starting in the fall. We have a number of virtual classes that are going to be happening throughout the summer, and then we're going to have more of them coming in the fall also. We're looking at very few really live classes in the fall. We're seeing that we're probably going to stick to doing virtual classes for a while here, just until we know it's safe. We do a lot of deep cleaning and things here at the Art Center, and everybody has their own bag of equipment so that we don't spread germs, but it's still touch and go sometimes. So we just want to make sure everybody's safe. So as you're coming in, I also wanted to mention too that you can always, we're a nonprofit art center here, Rover Art Center, and I know a lot of you guys have donated. Little donations make a big difference to us. So we just want to always, if you have a chance, little donation, always nice to help us pay for these classes. Each one of these classes costs about $150. It's free to you guys, but it costs the Art Center about $150 to run each free class. Just so you kind of know. Anyway, I don't want to be chit-chatting too much here, so I wanted to give it over to Tom and Mary Leah. Enjoy the class. I'm going to add some lights here for you.
Okay, well, I'm going to put my mask off now. Yeah. Well, welcome all, and really happy to have you all here today. I think we'll get started pretty soon, right? Is everybody on board?
Tom's got a few that he's admitting.
We have a few people that are coming along. So what we'll be doing today is we're thinking about summertime, we're thinking about landscapes. And what you'll need a watercolor, piece of watercolor paper. It doesn't have to be large. It could be, maybe 5 by 7, or you could work pretty big if you wanted to. You'll need a pencil. I have a HB pencil, and I think it's kind of reverberating. And do you tell them to unmute? Do you tell them to unmute? Should we tell them to unmute?
Yeah, if you have questions, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So a pencil and an eraser, and you'll need a round watercolor brush if you have one, that'd be great. I use about a number 10, and I have my paints, and I also have a little paint container that I'll show you in a minute, and you need to have some water, maybe 2 buckets of water, and some tissue or towel would be good to have. So I'm going to show you a few things before we get started, and then I'll do a step-by-step drawing with you. Now you can make your own landscape. You don't have to copy mine, but some of you might need a little or choose to have a little bit of guidance, so that's great. And gosh, just welcome everyone. I'm so glad you're all here on this nice sunny day. So what a great day to do a summertime landscape. I was thinking a little bit about places that I really enjoy, places that I visit again and again, and you may have places like that as well. There's an artist that I really like her work a lot. She's a good teacher and a really good artist, and she said that she
I can't hear you. I don't know if anybody else can. Can't hear.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah, no.
You got muted for some reason.
Okay, so did you miss everything I said? Pretty much?
Something about where you used to go.
Okay, so I'll backtrack just a little bit. So
I don't know what happened.
I don't know, that's okay. We have those things happen, so we're just being flexible here. So what I was thinking about is just that many of us have special places that are places that we return to again and again, maybe your cabin, maybe it's just the view from your window, special places that, you know, maybe you're interested in painting that place or having a special memory about it and drawing it again and again. And that's what this artist that I really like her work, and she calls it a heart home. Places that we have, and maybe it's just a memory. And I would also like to say that a lot of artists really just paint from memories and things that have been important to them, and they pull those ideas together and create paintings from things that are places that are special. So let's get started. And as I said, you're going to need a pencil and an eraser because I always have to erase. So pencil, eraser, watercolor, paper, some tissues, clean water, and I guess that's about it. So I'm going to take you through step by step a way to draw a landscape. One of the ways that you could draw a landscape. I'm going to show you a couple examples and then we'll get started. Okay, so gather your supplies, and then Tom, whoops, now I got, okay, so now we're going to be looking down on me, not on me, on the paper. Hi, Jody. I can't see everybody that's there, but welcome. Okay. We're getting organized here. Okay, perfect. Is that better? Okay, maybe I need to move this over. So first of all, I want to show you just a couple different examples of landscape paintings that I really like. So here's one. Can you see it? Is this upside down or is it okay?
It's right side up.
It's right
here.
side up to
Yep,
them.
yep.
Okay, so this is an oil painting, but I think it's a really nice example of a summer landscape. It's an oil painting by Charles Davis. It was painted, oh, let's see, back in the 1880s. But I just wanted to show you, this is a great example of a low horizon with lots of sky. So the sky is really important here. There's a little body of water, and some of that sky is getting reflected in the water. But there's just, it's a lovely, peaceful scene. So I thought that would be fun to show you. And then here's another one by Vincent van Gogh. And this is a very summery painting as well. This is an oil. He painted this in 1888. And it's a painting of a farmhouse and a path and kind of a cool, just a beautiful composition. I really like it. It's got what we call an S curve happening here, which is kind of neat. That brings you back to the house where the man is walking. So I thought that was neat. Here's another one I just want to show you real quick. This is by another artist that you've probably seen me, if you've taken classes from me, seen me show her work. This is Emily Carr. And what I love about this is the sky and the expressive qualities in that sky that she painted. Beautiful. So again, there's a low horizon line with lots of interesting sky. So just kind of fun to show you. All right. So moving along here, I'll show you my, this is my photo, excuse me, my reference from a painting that I did. And we can kind of work from this, but you can always change it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be like this. This area here, I painted it to be water, but you could just make it grass, all right? So first of all, we're gonna do some drawing. And what I did was I drew this out on a piece of paper, and now you can't see it, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about making a landscape painting. And so you can go ahead with your pencil and draw on your watercolor paper, okay? You're not gonna wanna draw on your watercolor paper with a Sharpie marker. I'm just doing it so you guys can see how to do it, or one way to do it, okay? So the first thing that I'm doing here is I'm thinking about where I want to have the highest hill or where I want that to be. And so I'm placing it right about here. And I'm just starting about, I would say this is about 3/4 of the way up on the paper. Put a little arrow there. So you should be thinking about drawing and getting your painting organized on your watercolor paper. Okay, so when we draw, we work with our pencil. You're working with your pencil on your watercolor paper, but I'm doing it with the Sharpie so that you can see better. Okay, so I'm going to establish this second hill, and then I'm going to make a line here for where the land is. Okay, is that helpful? Here's another area here. So I'm sort of breaking this up and getting the lay of the land. I'm trying to get some perspective here. So the things that are far away are going to be lighter and less detailed, and the things that are in the foreground, which is the front lower part of the paper, they're going to be more detailed. Okay, so I'm not going to draw my trees here. I've just sort of left an area here for them, but you can make a very soft sort of mark here that sort of shows where those trees might be going. But not looking for detail here, we're just looking for, okay, I hope that's helpful. We're looking for just a basic guideline. Okay, so once you've got this idea drawn on your watercolor paper, then we'll get started painting. Here's a couple other ideas. Here's one here. It's got more layers to it. And here's another one here with some little pine trees. That might be kind of an interesting idea. So you come up with your plan, and then we'll get started painting it. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. Does anybody have a question right now? If you have a question, you could put it into chat, right?
Yep.
Or you can just unmute and ask your question. That would be fine. I can't tell.
Oh, okay, that one's already been taken care of.
I see Judy. Hi, Judy. Well, it looks like we're good. No questions?
I have a question.
Okie doke.
Can you show that first picture again? I want to use that, but I'm not sure I got all the lines.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
See it?
Oh,
Can you see it?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're going to get started on our painting, and if we have time, I can do 2 of them so you can practice 2 times. I like to have a couple pictures going at the same time because with watercolor we have dry time. In other words, stuff has to dry before we can move on to the next part. So I have my water bucket next to me on my left side. I have, let's see, move that over just a little bit. I have my brush ready, and I have my palette. And I'm going to show you my palette. If you don't have something like this, that's fine. You can just use a tray or something flat because you're going to be wanting to mix color here. We're going to first start out by, before we actually paint, I want you to get some colors ready so that you can have them ready to go for your painting. And we will be starting with the sky, just so you know, but I want to do this kind of quickly. I had a little scrap piece of paper here somewhere. Okay, I got it. All right, so what I'm going to do, I want to show you how we can mix a few different greens, because we're not going to just use the green right out of the pan. This is my pan set. And some of you might have this. This is great. You can also get these from Larry at the Art Center. You can buy different kits full of materials, which is really great. So I can take the greens that are in my pan, and I'm getting them wet, and I'm putting them right here. And I can see the colors before I apply them to my paper, right? So here's this green, which is a deeper green than that one, but I can change it up by adding a little bit of yellow to my green. There's some yellow, but I can mix these two guys together and get a warmer green. So you'll want to have ready, in a few minutes, you can get ready with some different greens so that they're not all the same, okay? Another idea would be to take a bit of blue and mix some blue in with your green. And I can test these on a scrap piece of paper. So I like to do that. It helps me to see what the colors are that I have. That's just the paint right out of the pan. And this is my one with the yellow mixed with it. And then we'll put one with a little bit of blue in it. Okay, so we have a variety. I also really want you to think about today what we call value. In other words, working light to dark, because when we're thinking about things that are far in the distance, they're going to be lighter and less detailed. So we will add water to our paint to lighten it up. So that's how you get lighter values in watercolor. Okay, so there we go. There's 3 different values. I don't know if you can see that very well, but a dark, a medium, and a really, really light. Okay, so you're going to be thinking about that a little bit today when you paint. So I wanted to go over that with you. All right, I'm going to move my palette over, and I'm ready to go. So here's my drawing. Yeah, I've got it drawn out here. Now you probably can't see it, but here's my reference. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up here at the sky. And I'll want to let that dry before I paint this, before I paint that area right there. Okay, so I better get clean water so I don't have a green sky. Okay, so I've rinsed my brush off. Make sure it's clean. And I'm going to dip into my blue. Now you might have a blue that is in your pan set, or maybe you have paint that's in a tube. That's fine. I like ultramarine blue, comes in a tube, and I also like cobalt blue. That's another really nice one. But I'm going to be using a little bit of ultramarine blue from my sky. So I get it ready, and I can always test it on my scrap piece of paper. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is here's where my sky is going to go, and I'm going to use clean water. And so I'm dipping my brush into the clean water in my bucket here, and I'm getting this top portion damp. And I want to give it a minute or two to let it soak into the fibers of the watercolor paper. Now, if it's really dry where you are, that's going to happen pretty quickly. We just want to avoid having a puddle. In other words, we don't want the water to be sitting up on top like maple syrup, right? It has to absorb into the pancakes. That was funny. Okay, so I'm also going to be using just a hint of a little bit of pink or rose if you have it. Maybe you have ultramarine, excuse me, maybe you have alizarin crimson. That's another good color to have. And I'm going to do a little touch of color right around here where the top hill meets the sky. Okay, so just a little hint. Now I don't want to paint the hills, I just want to get the color into the sky. So because this is damp, it's moving and it's soft. And now I'm going to go into my blue, which I have ultramarine blue. And I'm just going to get some of this into my sky. Now I can leave some of the areas white. In other words, I don't have to put paint everywhere. You can see there's no paint there. There's no paint right there. And I can keep this very soft. Okay. So there's a nice sweeping summer sky. It's very pretty. I'm going to let that dry a little bit before I move on. And let's see. I should have brought my hairdryer today. I didn't bring it. Hopefully we'll be okay. Tom will blow on. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be painting this hill here. But like I said, you're going to want this to dry before you move on. So if you have another sheet of paper, it might be good to do another sky while you're waiting. And I think that's what I'll do. I'm going to move this over here and let it dry a little bit. And then I'm going to make another sky. So I think that's kind of a helpful thing to do. I don't know where that hairdryer went. We have a fan. I'll put it in front of the fan. So while that one's drying, I'm doing another sky, and I'm doing it the same way. Getting the top portion damp. All right, and I'm going back in with my ultramarine blue and just kind of painting it. I'm not going back and forth like this. I'm sort of just sort of dancing my brush across this paper here. And if I want to have clouds, I just leave it empty and leave that white there. If I wanted to with this sky, I can always take my tissue and pull away some color, some of my blue if I want to. Okay. So just have fun with skies. Skies are really fun to make. And look outside when you're going along or you're going for your walk and just really notice the sky. It's so fun. Okay, so there's another quick one. And that one can dry too. I think this one's ready. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, it's pretty good. Thank
Want
you.
this one dry?
Sure. All right. So this is good now. I think we can work with it. I'm going to go and I'm thinking about this distant hill right here. And I'm going to make it a very, very pale purple. So you can take your pink or your alizarin crimson and mix that color with your ultramarine blue, and you'll get kind of a nice little purple. And we want this to be very light in value. So the value, in other words, the lightness and darkness of it, it's quite pale. Okay, because it's far away, and I want to keep the value light. Okay, so I have that mixed up, and I'm thinking about this area here, which I'm going to paint first. So I do not want to get it into the sky, especially if your sky is just a bit wet, so try and avoid that. But I'm painting this along here. Now I did not dampen this first. You don't need to right here. I'm just going ahead and painting it. And I'm not going to worry too much if it goes a little bit into the sky. Thanks, Tom.
Are they too loud?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so this is painted now. And it's very light in value. It's a very pale purple. Okay, so I'm going to want that to dry a little bit. And then I'm going to be getting into a deeper purple. So I can mix that up with my blue and with my alizarin. Sometimes they have these little hair dryers that are tiny little battery operated hair dryers. I should get one of those. That'd be a really good idea, huh? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to work on this next distant hill. This is a little closer. So it's a deeper value. I think you could probably see this now as I paint across here. Notice that I'm not outlining. I'm sort of working my way through here and then taking the area that I painted and moving it up. And then I'm also moving it down just a bit. So I'm working sort of from the inside out, or the middle upwards and downwards. I guess that would be a good way to say it. Okay. So anytime that you're describing things that are in the distance, you'll want to keep this idea in mind that things that are far away are going to be lighter and airier. They're going to be less detailed, right? And that helps to create what we call perspective. It helps to create distance. It's suggesting distance. And this is sort of running right here, but I can work through that and it'll be okay.
Oh, hey, that's cool. It looks like a little bit of mist on the mountain.
Yeah. So if you wanted to create mist, that would be a fun lesson, but you would spray it with water, which would be kind of cool. All right. It is a little runny, but that's okay. All right. Next thing we're going to do, I'm going to create an area below there with, I'm going to go into a darker color. So I've got more of my ultramarine blue and purple. And I'm going to go below this, and it's okay if this runs a little bit. So it doesn't have to all be the same color. You can change it up a little bit. Okay, it's looking good. If I want to soften this area, I'm going to take a little bit of water and I'm going to go below this mark that I made, this brush stroke that I made, and it's going to soften that a little. Okay. So I'm going to start moving down over to this area here. And the one that I did I used blue to indicate the water here. Now this does not have to be water. You could just make this a pretty field. It could be green. That would be fine. But I'm going to work here for a little bit, right in this lower area. So for this area, I'm going to get into my greens now. And we talked about mixing up different greens. And I'm mixing up some green. I've got several different colors here. I've got one called sap green, which is a great one. But if you don't have sap green and you have one perhaps like Viridian, add a little bit of the yellow to it and that will get it nice and warm for you. Okay, so I'm going to show you my palette again because I have several different greens mixed up. Okay, this is the sap. All right, so these are warm colors, nice and warm. We're thinking about the warm summer light and the way that we can depict that. Okay, so rinsing my brush again so that the water is on the brush is clean. And I'm going to be dampening this area over here. So I'm just getting it just damp. It's not soaked, but It's damp. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip into some of this green that I have mixed up and start to think about developing this hill area right in here. Okay, and again, because the paper is damp, I'm getting a very nice soft look. So it's probably going to be a little darker down, whoops, down here at the bottom. And this is called a wash, what I'm doing right now. It's a wash that has a few different colors in it. And that's called a variegated wash, actually. So I'm getting a little deeper green in this area here. Okay, whoops. Got a little bit too much on there. If you get too much paint, then just take your brush and get some water on it and you can pull it right out of there. Works pretty well. Okay. All right. So that's kind of looking nice. If you want to change the shape of it, you can certainly do that and just pull some of that out a bit. There. Okay. I'm going to go in with a little bit of blue just to sort of tie this together here. And I know it'll look nice to put a bit of blue right in here. Doesn't all have to be the same color. I put a little here, a little here, and a little here, just touching it. It's kind of a nice thing to do. And then I can take a bit of yellow too. So dipping into my yellow paint and popping a bit of that in here as well. Okay. So I really kind of warmed it up a little bit. Now I'm going to let this dry before I proceed because it's pretty wet. And I'm going to be putting a tree in here. And I need this to be dry before I do my tree. And then I'll be adding some grass. So I'm going to switch over and let that guy dry.
The fan might run all that together. So.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so I'm going to go back to this one. And you might want to follow along and do another one. I'm going to change this one up a little bit. It's a little different painting. But we'll go back to that other one and finish it up. So no worries. This one I'm doing a little different. I'm using a pretty blue-green here for the distant hills. And it's the same process. Starting with my lightest value back here to do this little hill. And I know that if I'm going to do trees, they're going to be darker than the paint that I'm applying now. So it'll be fine and I'll be able to cover over those, the wash that I initially do. So I'm doing the same thing here, but using a little different color. This is a really pretty blue-green. Looks kind of nice. And so into this wash here, I'm touching a little more color, a little deeper color in spots, just sort of dabbing it into the damp wash. It's always okay to leave a little bit of white because it helps to create crisp areas in your painting. It's, think about where the light would be hitting on your paper. Let's see here. I'll go in with the purple here. So this next one here, I'm going to do it with the purple. So I changed my colors up a little on this one. Whoops. What was that?
Me.
Everybody doing okay? Working on your landscape?
Yep.
Good. So I'm popping in a little bit darker color right along the edge here. I'm really just taking my brush back and forth and sort of drawing with the tip of the brush. This is a nice brush because it comes to a nice point. So if you're purchasing watercolor brushes, this is a short-handled brush, and it comes to a nice point. So you can get a lot of, actually it can do a lot for you as a brush. So again, I'm gonna go over this a little bit more and get it a little darker in spots. I'm not gonna get it dark everywhere, just kind of in certain areas. All right. So here we go back into my green for this one. Whoops, I'm not too thrilled with that particular color there. That's pretty. It's always good to test it. I need to test my color. That's a pretty spring green. What do you think, Tom?
I think that's a pretty nice green. Nice and springy feeling, warm.
So here we go across this area here. And this one has an S curve. So it really does, doesn't it? So, oh boy, what am I going to do now? So here.
The way it went in on my computer when it stopped.
Yeah, okay, so this is a hard edge. And I can take this hard edge and I can move the paint outward. See, so it gets rid of that mark that I made. I want to do it pretty quickly though, right? I don't want to dawdle too much. Okay, so there's a nice little sweeping brush strokes to create this.
Is that color green or blue?
This is green. It's a
Okay.
it's a warm green. This is just a little different painting that I'm doing here for you. So just to give you.
Oh, that's why I'm getting confused. I'm like, what happened to all the other stuff?
I usually do a couple different paintings, and
Okay.
because of the fact that these needed to dry,
Okay, got it.
switched back and forth, guys. So I hope I didn't confuse you too much.
My Kleenex is art. No.
Pardon me?
My Kleenex is art.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. Whoops. That's a pretty green. But I want to go more blue, purpley blue. Okay. So I'm really just painting into the wash that I've created here with a little deeper value, deeper color. Okay. So I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to go back to that other one that needed some dry time. Okay. Hope I'm not mixing anybody up too much. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to go back to this other guy over here, okay? And this is getting nice and dry, so I can work on it now. A lot of times we just really have to be patient with this process for things to dry, because we can put several layers on top of our painting. No worries about that. So I'm going to get this area here painted, and I'm going to make mine water. Now you, like I said, you could make it a yellow field. It could be green. It could be any color you want it to be, but I'm going to make mine water. So I'm getting it wet, and I'm going to be dipping back into my blue. Oh, that's pretty. Okay, So when I do the water, I'm going to take my brush and go back and forth like this, okay? I can also leave white. I can also do a second layer. That means this would dry, and then once it's dry, I can put some lines on it, working onto the dry surface. We'll see if we have time to do that, but I'm just going across this area here with my blue. And because, again, it's damp, it's nice and soft. It's kind of a pretty little. If you get too much paint, I'll show you how you move it away. So I've rinsed my brush off, dried it on my tissue, and then I take the brush and move it across and pull some of that color up. Now the color, the paint is on my brush, so I need to rinse my brush, dry it again, and then I can do the same technique, pulling some of that out as needed. Okay. And I don't mind that this sort of ran here. It's kind of a pretty little thing that happened there, so I'm not going to be too concerned about that. How are we on time?
It's almost 1:15.
Okay, so before I add my trees, I want to make sure again that this area is dry. Okay, so I want to think about the kind of trees that I want to make. Let's see here. It's pretty good up here. And I can think about trees that are like a pine tree, or I could think about the other kinds of trees I can't think of. Sorry.
Willow, birch.
Yeah, you can think about a birch tree, any kind of tree that you want to make. But I also want to just remind everyone that when you're doing a tree, you want to think about leaving some areas empty so that we can see through to the sky. And thinking about areas in the tree that are lighter and areas in the tree that are a bit darker and deeper in their value. Okay. I keep mixing up the wrong green, that's for sure here. Just want to make sure this is dry. So I'm starting up here, and I'm going to create a little, some leaves here for the tree. I'm going to have the tree be right around this area here on my paper. So because this is dry, I'm going to be just fine. So I'm starting here. I can actually dampen it first a little bit. And this time I'm using more of a dabbing motion, or a sort of a pressing my brush down, making some squiggles. That's a good way to say it. So you can kind of see that happening here with my very pale wash. So into this damp area here where I've painted, this area right here, I can get a deeper value of my green and pop in some darker brush strokes at the bottom of these dabbed areas here. Okay. So it's getting a little darker down toward the bottom, underneath the leaves. Okay. So I'm getting it a little darker and darker as I go. And I can go into some of these open spots and make some brush strokes too, some dabbing motions here with my brush. So, and it's going to flow into the wash that I've just made. I'm going to bring this down here and get a little stronger green down in this area here. That's coming along. Takes a little bit of time to get it developed. I can actually bring it down into this area here a little bit. Okay. You can always change the shape that you've made, change it up a little bit, and have it become larger if you want it to get a little bit bigger. That's good. And once that dries, then we would be adding the branches. So you can mix together a little bit of, maybe you have burnt sienna, maybe you have a little brown, but we'd want to wait before we add that to that painting, okay? And so I could get in here and do a little base trunk here. And give it a minute to get a little bit dry before I. So while that's having a little bit of dry time, I could take a bit of my burnt sienna and add some grasses here. And I'm just drawing with my brush. I'm kind of creating a few little areas of texture. This creates a nice texture here. You can see that. But again, all that was really just taking my brush and drawing with it. Tom, can you think of anything? Any ideas here?
Maybe down at the very edge of the shoreline, a little rock of some kind.
Yeah, I was thinking about a rock here. So we could make a rock maybe down right there.
Yeah.
And we'd have to give it a little more time, like I said, to dry. But we could start the workings of a little rock, maybe. Maybe that's a rock there too. So let's see here. Where's the brown? So to get those branches in the tree, you can mix up a little bit of blue with some red and green, which would give you a nice brown, or you can use the brown right out of your paint tin. And I'm thinking about creating some branches here that are in these open spots. So I'm getting some of this in here, and it's still pretty wet. So wait till it dries before you try to do this. But I'm just showing you how to do it so that you can see how it works. But I'm going into these areas here that are open and creating the trunk of the tree. And then the branches can just be, we can just see parts of them. We don't have to see the whole branch because they're covered up by the leaves of the tree. So you can see what I'm doing right here. Just doing a little drawing with my brush. So once it's dry, really is the best time to do this. And I'm trying to speed it up a bit here. It's coming along pretty nice. Yeah. Want to get a little darker down here at the base of the tree. And you can have fun making these branches in your tree. If you need to go back and get some darker areas in the leaves of the tree, you could just kind of go back in while it's wet and pop in a little deeper value. Okay? And then it would be darker around here where the tree is, so I can just get a deeper value of my green and kind of create a little darker area here where that is happening. And then I'm softening that edge so that it isn't just a super hard edge. So I'm adding a little more green here, just to greenish, yellowish green, I should say, to make some more grass. And once this dries, I can go down here to my rocks and get them a bit more detailed. All right. So I think we have time to have folks show their painting. That would be really fun. Maybe I'll work a couple more minutes and then we'll have time for that. Yeah, that's okay. So my water area, the lake or area here is dry, so I can go over it now with my brush to create some line work here into the dry painting here. So I'm going in with my brush to get a little darker area. Okay. So does anybody have a question or an idea? You want to share what you've done today? What do you think?
I can still see my pencil marks.
Okay. Well, I can see my pencil marks too. So just so you know, with watercolor, that's totally fine to leave your pencil marks. If you want to get rid of the pencil marks, then once the painting is completely dry, then you'll go in and you can erase them. I would use an eraser like this. This is called a kneaded eraser, and it will be gentle on your painting.
Thank you.
Whenever you go to any of the museums and you see some of the old masters watercolors, you will definitely see pencil lines.
Yeah, it's very
It's very common to see pencil lines on watercolors.
yeah, that's very true. So, how much time do we have?
5 minutes.
Okay. Well, we could take turns showing what you've done today if you want to.
Are you going to be okay with the smaller pictures today?
Yeah,
Okay, because I don't think I can.
that'd be great.
Okay, we got Mary Jo's iPad, Barb Anderson. We can't see your picture. Your virtual background is interfering. We have Alyssa, Kathy.
Yeah, so they want to show.
Wow. Nice job, everybody.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Hi, Julia. This is so fun.
Kathy, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Nice. Kathy, nice job.
Thank you.
Oh, Julia, that's beautiful. I can't see everybody, but I'm seeing, that's awesome. June, that's very pretty. Maria, nice.
I have a question.
Yes.
Janelle.
Do you hear people talking in the background the whole time?
No.
Oh, I do.
You do?
I do too.
Oh, you do too, Jody?
Yes.
Okay, so Tom will tell us what to do for that for the next time, because that's kind of a
Yeah,
little,
somebody like having a conversation with somebody else the whole time.
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah, or like it's a radio or something.
Like
Yeah,
a
or
radio.
something.
Okay, well, we'll on our end try and figure that out, but wouldn't they want to be muted, Tom? You guys would want to be muted.
Yes.
Yeah.
As-
Can you,
Maria,
as that originator, mute everybody?
I'm sorry. Yeah, so Tom, I think, can mute you guys. It looks like everybody is muted, so I don't know what that interference is.
Mary Jo, I just unmuted because I have a question.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm putting my picture is from Lake Superior, and I'm trying to put lupine in.
Oh,
Do they have to be like grounded? Should I have put stems on them, or can they just be there?
Unfortunately, oh, there it is. Mary, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I would ground them.
Okay.
I think that would be probably a good idea.
And then the horizon of the lake, I thought it looked like you made that darker, so I did that. Is that correct? To make that?
I think it depends on the time of day and the light.
Okay.
So you'd have to, yeah, you'd want to look at a photograph or be there and kind of figure that out, because it's going to change, right?
Yes.
Yep.
According to the light. So that was one thing I just wanted to say. You know, think about when you're looking at a scene, how it's going to change at different times of the day, and of course with the seasons, but particularly
In ours.
when the day is early morning, when you're in the evening.
Like a bluish.
Okay, so is that who is talking right now? Somebody was saying something. Are you guys still hearing that noise? Yes. Beth is nodding yes.
Yes.
I'm so
You know-
sorry. We're going to have to figure that all out.
Is there a class going on maybe in the studio? That's what it
Yes,
sounds like.
there's a camp with some children.
Oh, that's what it sounds like.
Wow, that's pretty loud. Right.
I'm gonna try.
Okay. Mary Lee, I have a question for you.
Okay.
On the
Who's
type
this?
of paper that you use, this is Mary Ashby.
Hi, Mary.
Type of paper that you use, you suggest a specific weight, and I don't think I have the same weight. Is there, what difference does that make?
That's a really, really good question. So paper will come, there are a lot of different kinds of watercolor paper. One that I like the most is called Arches, and it's 140 pound. So
Okay.
that's medium. It's we don't want to really be anything less than that. And then watercolor paper has what we call tooth, because this is cold press. There's another kind of paper that's called hot press, and that is a very smooth surface. So I like to have the paper that has the texture to it. I hope that answers your question. Now, paper can also be very expensive, and it's really nice to work on expensive paper, and it can be 300 pounds. That's real thick. Um,
So
I'm pretty
I've
happy
been
with
using the 90-pound.
I would switch to 140 if you can.
Okay, so is that going to make it more absorbent and pick up more of the color?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And I think you'll have a little bit better luck, a little more success with your washes.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have another class coming up in a couple weeks, and I'm planning to do a bird. So looking forward to that. Yeah, and just watch for fun things happening here at the Art Center. It's really fun that you guys all came today.
Well, thank you very much.
I don't think I
Thank
got
you.
to see everybody's artwork because how many people are here, Tom?
We've got 35. We had as many as 44 here today.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah, so I really appreciate you all coming. I'm still working on this other little painting
Oh,
here. Oh, that's
Sunita,
really nice.
Sunita?
Yeah, very pretty. Thank you for showing us. Can you tell us your name?
I'm Suni.
Suni, hi
Okay.
Suni, that's lovely. You've done a really nice job there with that painting. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for this session.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming. Is there anybody else that wants to show your work? Can you scroll down and see? There's John.
Sure.
Let's see. Oh, that's nice. Very pretty. Oh, that's yeah.
Iman?
Yeah. very-
Linda's.
Who's that right there?
Linda.
Hi, Linda. Sorry.
That's okay.
You guys know that we're seeing you on the little tiny square or rectangle.
Yeah, that's okay. You don't need to see me.
Oh, that's really pretty. You did a good job of getting the values happening. And Nancy's showing one. Nice, Nancy. Very nice. Anybody else?
Yes.
I don't want to miss anybody.
Kim, hello.
Kim?
Yes. I had problems with the this one. It's too dark,
Okay.
and I can't figure out how to get it lighter.
Well, once you get that dark, it's a little bit tricky to get rid of it, but you can always do another one.
I don't think I'm too dark in this one, but
No, that's very nice, Kim.
maybe this is a story day.
Well, you're the artist. It can be whatever.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
show
you all
yours.
thank you for teaching it a lot. I enjoyed it.
Oh, you're welcome. It's
Thank you.
our pleasure to be here. It's really fun. Yeah.
Thank you, Mary Leah.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
nice,
you for
Charlie.
coming. And I'll see some of you Wednesday because we have a class that is a 4-week-long watercolor class that tomorrow will be our second one. But watch for other things coming up. Oh, and I forgot I was going to do birds right here. I'll do a little bird for you, and you can add some in yours if you want to. And I just make a little V, an uneven V with curves. Have a good rest of the
All
day.
right. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see
Thank
you
you.
next week or next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I paint.